You are watching NicheSportz, a sports media outlet that's proudly sponsored by hezhez.co.uk, a fast-growing boxing equipment brand that supply custom designs and bespoke equipment across the United Kingdom.
This is the Unfiltered podcast, episode 15, and we're joined by a very special guest tonight. He's been around the block and he's got a serious reputation in the game, Mr. Alex Matvienko. Thanks for joining us tonight, fella.
Thank you. Don't know about serious, that's a good thing.
Oh, it is, very good thing, very good thing. Do you want to open us up, Tyler?
Yeah, Alex, so could you tell us a bit about your background, your upbringing, how you got into boxing?
Well, I grew up in a place called Great Lever, where the old Burnham Park used to be the old football ground. And there was a few like kickboxing, there were like Thai boxing fighters. There was a family called the Chadwicks, Julian Chadwick, Bob Chadwick. Bob run the doors on ballers, and he was quite a well-known Thai boxer. So everyone tended to kick the bags and elbow the bags, and there was lots of like weightlifting gyms when we was growing up. They were scattered about, like Western Street and stuff, Lever Street. There's quite a few bodybuilding gyms. So you go in the gym as a kid and you'd hit the bags and stuff. And I enjoyed boxing because I grew up watching it. When we was younger, everything was terrestrial TV. You had 4 channels. And it tended to be on like BBC, Frank Bruno. ITV, you get Mike Tyson, Trevor Berbick. So I was always interested in the boxing, and thinking back, I probably watched Lloyd Honeyghan and all Mark Brayland and all the stuff that was on in America and that was satellited over here. And I can vaguely remember stuff, Roberto Duran. I can remember stuff in the 80s, because I was a 70s kid. I was born 1978. And I can remember the early 80s. I remember watching Bruno Moore, and I remember watching some of the other fighters, but I can never really remember the names. My memory's not as good anymore. And I used to go in the weightlifting gym, you know, we was all kids, 13, 14-year-old, and we mooch about, even younger, probably 11, 12, and you know, you go in the gym and there'd be a bag there, you'd hit the bag, and I always wanted to get into it. When I got to about 15, I still hadn't gone to the boxing gym, because I'd messed around. I was a bit of a rogue, a little bit, not bad, yeah, a little bit, so we'd mooch about and stuff, and ended up getting into a bit of trouble. And something happened, someone stole something, so I beat a lad up. And I busted my hand a little bit, so the police come and they arrested me. They charged me. So I got charged for a street robbery, so I was like, I was on like 15, 16, something silly like that. And I was like thinking, street robbery. And, you know, they really threw it up me and made me think twice. So I thought, I need to start really going to the boxing gym, and it's something I always wanted to do. So I started going. There was a Thai boxing gym again. Thai boxing was big in Bolton, massive. They used to have big events on Silverwell Street. Started going down to a local Thai boxing gym, Mark Holmes, and I'd sort of dipped into the lads club but never stuck at it. And then I sort of played at it, and then as I was getting older, I thought I need to be a bit more stricter and start competing. So I didn't compete till I was about 19. Wow. I'd always been in the gyms. I wasn't really taking it serious, and I wasn't living the lifestyle. So I had my first fight against a tough kid from Newcastle. And he hit me in like the first or second round, and he wobbled me 3 teeth. So I've actually got a dead tooth. It's been there since I was about, I can't remember, my first fight was about 19, I think, or around 17, 18 or 19. I think it might have been 19. Can't remember. It was around that time. I thought, I better get it serious. So I started taking it serious. So I started boxing. I was at Castle Hill. Then I went to Lads Club. John Hart was quite well known in the amateurs, and he taught me how to teach as well as he taught me how to box. So I was helping out the teach, and I took it serious. I got to a national final. Boxed a lad called Brett Flornay, who's passed away now. He was actually murdered. He was a good fighter. He beat me in the national under 20 bouts. Then he went on to win the Open ABAs the year after. He was a good fighter. He got to prize fighter final.
That's a Brian, wasn't it?
Yeah, he lost in the final to Prince Aaron. He was winning the fight and got knocked down. So yeah, I'm not sure if he fought Bright, but he fought Prince Aaron, who fought him. So yeah, Brett was a good fighter, slick southpaw. I was beating everybody and I thought, I'm winning these, you know, I feel really confident. I stopped a kid who'd beat me year before, and I got to the final and he bamboozled me. He fought for the army. And when I got there, Chris Bessie was in the corner. I'm looking, thinking, Chris Bessie's like won the ABAs about 5 times. And I was in a bit of an awe, and Brett boxed my ears off that day. He wouldn't beat me unanimous. I learned a lot about myself. I had about 40 odd amateur fights, 47 I think I had. Turned professional with Oliver's gym. I bought this gym at that time. So
it was a silent partner with you when you bought it?
When I bought it, it was a Thai boxing gym again,
yeah.
Thai boxing. Bolton was massive for Thai boxing. We didn't really have many boxers in Bolton, but for Thai boxing we had a lot, you know, like Julian Chadwick, Bob Chadwick, and there was a lot. So there was a private Thai boxing gym. Our unit was across the way there, so we was in there. And well, before I owned it, I knew about it vaguely. It was like a private gym, and someone said, "Would you like to, you know, put some money into this?" And you know, it does all right. So I spoke with Foggy, who was running it. Foggy were like, "It's a good business. I'm not in a position to buy it, but you know, I'll run it." So we bought the business. I bought the business. Foggy was running it, but I was teaching at the Bolton Lads and Girls Club, and it was getting to the point where I was probably wanting to change my style a little bit. It was point scoring. I was more of a hooker and uppercuts. So I was thinking about maybe changing gyms. So I went to Castle Hill with Dave Langorn. He was my last amateur coach, and I trained with him. He trained Jamie Moore, Robbie O'Connor and people. And we bought the gym, and I'd already done my level 2 coach. I'd done loads of corners. Shane Singleton as a kid. He fought Terry Flanagan. I actually did the corner for that. And hundreds of corners like that. You know, all these kids who grew up to become pros and stuff. And I started teaching a couple of classes there. So before I was professional, I had a boxing gym. So that's where I met Humphrey Harrison. And Humphrey was Oliver's brother. Brilliant coach. Humphrey taught me so much. And it was a bit of a godsend really that I met him in the gym, because he was teaching Thai boxing there. He's one of the best ever Thai boxers from the UK. So Humphrey said to me, "You do a bit of boxing?" "Yeah, I do a bit. Why don't you come down and spar?" And I sparred a lad called Mark Thompson. He had as well. Mark used to spark quite a few people out, especially in the gym. So I did 4 rounds with Mark, and he hit me some belters, and we had a good spar. Humphrey went, "You can fight, can't you? You know, you can take a shot. So would you want to turn pro?" There was no professional boxing in Bolton. There wasn't many amateur boxing apart from like there was a young kid called Amir Khan. You know, who just won the Olympics at 17, who I actually knew. I'd been sparring him, but there weren't really many pros, so you'd never come across professionals. It's very quiet for professional boxing. There was like called Nicky Boyd from Falmouth who packed up, and he was making a bit of a comeback at one point, but it never come off. There was no one really. Alex Panarski before that, years before, he fought Herbie Hyde, so there was nothing in Bolton. There was Carl Thompson, but he's very quiet. He trained at Champs Camp over Horwich. There was not like now. Bolton's thriving. So I went to Oliver's. I had 19 professional fights with Oliver and Humphrey. Trained a lot of under Humphrey, but I got a good relationship with Oliver. So when Oliver said, you know, "Can you help me out? You know, I think with your boxing, you have a lot of fights in the gym. You scrap a little bit. Why don't you just look after your business and come and help me with Martin Murray, Rocky Fielding and stuff?" So I got more involved in the coaching side at that point. So I was meant to fight in the prize fighter. I went for it, and I thought, if I get this prize fighter, I'm buzzing. But that fell through. The British title shot fell through because Sky said that I hadn't been on Sky TV enough. So that fell through with Sam Webb, because who got stopped now? It was Brian got stopped, and Brian was going to be fighting Sam Webb, but Max Maxwell stopped him. So we put him for the voluntary. The British Boxing Board said, "Yeah, you know, we'll have you versus Sam Webb," which we was going to have anyway. Maloney wanted it. He'd already mentioned it, and I said I wanted it, but Humphrey wanted me to get a couple of fights under my belt. So this were a couple of fights on. This fight arrived, so I was like, "Doesn't I get fight for the British title?" And Sky TV, because they owned the cards, they said, "You know, he's not been exclusive enough." So sort of put me back a little bit. Then prize fighter come, Eddie Earn started coming on the scene. I put him for prize fighter, and then Jeff Thomas got in. It was like the last one at like middleweight for someone to get in, and there was a bit of a Twitter battle, and the people who were on BoxRec, if you go on BoxRec forum, I used to go on it, and Jeff used to have all these people who he spoke to, and everyone were throwing Jeff's name in, some were throwing my name in, Derry Matthews, Tony Dodson, who I trained and spar with, and he got it, Jeff got it, he actually dropped the kid. I think he may have won the first fight and lost the second, or in the first fight he dropped the kid and then lost on points, and that was sort of my seal for it, say, you know what, I'm 33, the gym's doing pretty good, and I was getting a few lads coming through saying they wouldn't mind turning pro, and I was helping Oliver, and Oliver was asking me as well. My dad were like, when are you going to pack in? So I just sort of like thought, you know what, I'm gonna help Oliver, and I'm gonna give the gym a try. So I ended up pushing the gym then, and then the gym's got busier.
Do you think that was a blessing in disguise then, Alex?
Yeah, I think everything happens for a reason. You got to put a positive on everything. So for me, my positive was, if Oliver wouldn't have said, you know, come on, come helping me, come with Martin with in Argentina, in Monaco, and in Germany, and all these great experiences. And I had a few lads coming through, the Jenkinson brothers. There was Simon and Chris, both twins. Chris ended up having 94 pro fights, I think. He fought everybody. He fought Ted Cheeseman, Denton Vassell. He fought...
Been around the block numerous times.
He fought everybody. Jimmy Kelly. He fought loads of people. So them two were my first ever pros. So then I started building a professional team up, an amateur team. I've had Chris Shepherd, who won the Nationals. He beat Zelfa Barrett, Kane Gardner. I've had Khalil Majid, got to... He fought the good kid from Yorkshire, what's he called, whose dad trains him. I forgot his name now. We've had he fought Dalton, yeah, as a kid, in junior semis. You know, we've had plenty of good lads come through. As a professional, we've had loads coming through. We've had Luke Blackledge win the Commonwealth title, defending numerous times.
See, that's where that series reputation comes in.
Yeah, you know, so we did pretty good. Yeah, we built up, and it's ended up now where, you know, we're quite busy. And, you know, I fly out to Florida next week with Mickey Ellison, who is a homegrown fighter from Halliwell. You know, we've had him here.
Great story.
Great story. He's going fighting a world title challenger next week in Florida. You know, we'll fly out next week, he'll fight the week after. So, good story. You know, you're bringing the kids in from grassroots who have no confidence, who don't know their ass from their elbow. Excuse me, my wording, but yeah, so, you know, there's been some really good times. It's been hard, it's not easy, especially now, you know, the cost of living, stuff like that, but, you know, we're doing all right.
Yeah, you've just been going through your pro boxing memories there, so 5 years, like we said, it's a blessing in disguise, the way it happened, literally the way it happened. And Oliver, God rest his soul, do you think he was probably the major influence?
Yeah,
on your boxing life?
See, in my boxing career, Humphrey was a big influence. Humphrey gave me a lot of confidence that I didn't have, probably because I wasn't around professionals. So I knew Jamie and that. I knew Jamie more. I'd been watching it. I'd never sparred him. And then you look at these guys and you think they're supermen. You know, you look at me, you think they're fucking... You know, and I'd hardly ever sparred any pros. There was no pros in Bolton. I'd never really been invited. I'd done a little bit with a couple of pros, but nothing much. And so I hadn't tested myself, and then I was getting to like 26, and Humphrey were like, you can fight a bit, you know, you took some shots in that spar off Mark, and Mark could punch, you know, why don't you come back and do some training with me? So Humphrey was the guy who pushed my career and had a big influence in my boxing career, you know, and I didn't go on to fight for the British, which I would have loved to have done, but I think by the time I was at that level, I could have held myself. I was sparring well with Jamie, with Martin Murray, and, you know, I could hold myself, Tony Dodson, but my training career, Oliver's played a massive part. There's a few people that have, you know, Tommy Battle's played a massive part, and he's played a big part in the Bolton boxing, Tommy Battle. But then also John Hart taught me how to teach, because he was like he used to take you on the courses for England boxing. So he taught me how to teach. You know, he taught me how to run a room, how to run a squad, and so on, and how to do correction and fault and run a session. So he had a big influence in my coaching career, and then Oliver had a massive influence in it as well, because he gave me the confidence by, you know, letting me do the spit bucket in the Golovkin fight, in the Martinez fight, let me hold the pads for the warming up for, you know, Rocky and whoever he fought.
Can't buy them experience.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, I got a lot of experience off Oliver, and to hear Oliver say, you tell him this round, Matt, because you're good, you know what you're doing, and to hear that, and for Oliver to come down when we had Luke as the Commonwealth champion defending, he'd come in and do some work with him and say, oh, you're doing such a good job. He'd just come and, you know, come for a session. and just tweak him. And then he'd give me some fighters, so he'd give me Osman Aslan, who's 16-0, but he sort of disappeared off the boxing because of COVID and stuff. But he gave me him after one fight. He said, I've got a kid, he lives around here, but I think you'll do better than I will with him, so you take him. And I got him to 16-0, we got him on Eddie's shows. So like, he believed in me. You know, I know 100% he believed in me. So that gave me confidence as well on my coaching side. Humphrey gave me confidence on my boxing side, you know, and taught me so well as well.
So was he your first proper fighter?
Who's that?
The lad that you've just been talking about.
What, Luke Blackledge?
Yeah.
Nah, because the twins were. So I had
Right,
the twins. So
Jenkinsons.
when we was here, yeah, we used to have the Jenkinsons, and I'd have loads of local lads who I knew from the area, and they might be out in the pubs and all that, and they'd be saying, I want to get fit, can you teach me some boxing? So I'd be like, come in, I'll teach you some boxing. And they'd come in, and we'd teach them some boxing, and they'd be buzzing off it, you know, they'd be like, yeah, I'm getting pretty good, and you know, like they'd have a few fights, and they'd do pretty well in the fights, and I started getting quite a big crowd of them coming. So that's how it sort of spiraled, you know. The first crop was like these guys coming through, or old amateur fighters like Danny Watson, who owns Vida Loca Tattoos. He turned up 16 stone, having a bit of a midlife crisis, and we're like, I need to get fit, I want to fight again. So I was like, all right, so I got him fit, and he got to like 9-0, he was pretty good. So I've had a few success stories through different reasons.
Of course, yeah, we'll continue to, after your career now, obviously you've got the ABC as well, haven't you? Halliwell ABC.
Yeah,
How many carded boxers have you got now, amateur?
Well, one of the lads who runs the club with me, Phil Robinson,
Phil,
he's
yeah,
like,
big
oh,
up to Phil.
we've got like 50, and I'm like, we haven't got 50 carded because we only want guys who are serious and that isn't 50
Keep
serious.
telling Tyler this.
Yeah, so I've told him a million times, I only want serious because I don't know how many years I've got left in my life. I can't keep trying to motivate people, keep giving people my time, when I've got some people who are really motivated and some people who are sort of playing at it. And I understand, I played at it when I was younger, so I don't want to waste anyone's time. I don't want no one wasting my time. It's got to be 110%. So I think we've got really about 30 active, you know, really active and 100%. I only want 100% in the team.
Just touching on what you said there, so do you think, or if you have any regrets, do you tell them these fighters?
All my regrets. So like my early years, my playing around on the bags, or going to a Thai boxing gym and really not pushing myself to the boxing gym too early, and then only starting to compete when I think I was 18 or 19. I had my first fight at Bury ABC. I think Amir was on the bill, he was 11, and I think I had my first fight, I think I was 18, 19, and my biggest regret was that gap. And maybe I'd have been burnt out, but I felt like I missed out on them years where I should have been knuckling down, but I wasn't, because I like to drink and I like to go out and everything else. And or I mess around on the streets, and I feel like I made my error there. So then when I did get to 19, I had my first fight, I was like, what am I doing? You know, I'm poor, I'm not even fit. And then my mum passed away. So because my mum passed away, I used to run every day, and it's probably more for my mindset now when I look back at it. So I run 5 miles every day, but it was probably to make me feel better. And I never realised this till only like the last few years when I look back on it. And I used to run 5 miles every day, and it's probably because just to keep me sane, to keep me feeling better. So that pushed me as well. When my mum passed away when I was about 20, it made me knuckle down a bit more, and you know, really start training hard. And then I give it 110%. I overtrained a lot of my fights. I trained too hard, but that's what I want for my fighters: working hard, and do you know what I mean? The dedication.
Of course, yeah. Just touching on Mickey again then, so how long have you had Mickey under your wing?
So Mickey Ellison's been here for a good few years now.
Because you've been in Zimbabwe and everywhere.
Yeah, so
he's a proper success story.
Yeah, Mickey Ellison's coming. I think he may have had a couple of Thai boxing fights. He had an MMA fight. He actually fought one of my other fighters in the gym, who was Jack McGann, who's an undefeated fighter.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so Mickey fought him. He's just a tough lad, Mickey. So Mickey's come here. I think he might have had a couple of amateur bouts at the time. I think he'd been at another local club, and he come and tried here. Because I think, you know, he's seen the Darwin lads getting better, Luke Blackledge, Stevie Taylor, so he's come here. And he was very raw, Mickey. So that you're talking about 8 years ago, 7, 8 years ago. And then he stayed here. he had a bit of a blemish record, won a few, lost a few, fought Lyndon Arthur, but lost in the ABAs, but won a Northwest title, knocked the kid out, the Iranian kid from Northside, I forgot his name. And then we turned him over. An opponent switched on the night. Mickey took the opponent, ex-Central Area champion Carl Wilde. Bit of a step too far, lost in the 4-rounder. Moved up, dropped down to middleweight, fought Jack Sellers, another good kid who fought Jack Cullen not long after. Lost a dead razor 10-rounder, but learnt a lot in that 10 rounds. So he's had 2 blemishes already, but he's learnt from them 2 losses. Then we carried on. Then he got his biggest win with Charlie Schofield, scored another big win with Kinsona. Then all of a sudden, at that point, he left. He just said, you know what, he'd been here for years, and he said, I'm going to go to another gym. And he'd been going up that gym anyway, sparring the likes of Liam Conroy, and I think because he thought, well, I've got good sparring, he went up there. It was probably the best thing that could have happened, because he went, he had a couple of fights, he had 4 fights, so he had the rematch with Charlie. In the end he lost it. He lost to Patrick McCrory, a good kid. He lost them 2, and then he come back. He said, I'm not sure if I've made the right decision, you know, I feel silly, can I come back? And I'm like, of course you can. I'm not going to hold anything against you, life's too short. So, you know, and some people would probably say, no, I'll never have a fighter back, and I get it, I get both sides, but for me it's like, I like Mickey, you know, I have nothing personal. He wanted to leave here to see if the grass is greener, and that's fine. Do you know what I mean? We all do things like that, don't we? And you've got to find yourself, haven't you, make sure. So Mickey left, he came back, and we fought Jake Barton. We got a phone call. That
was some knockout.
And it was a great fight. Jake's a lovely lad.
Yes.
Funnily enough, Mickey used to fight on his undercards on the Thai boxing, because Jake was the world champion and Mickey was just a lad on the undercard. So Mickey was like, who's fighting these undercards? Do you think I'll beat him? Yeah, of course you will. I think you've got the right style. Mickey beat him. And then that was a light heavyweight. So the next minute, do you want to fight Thomas Whitaker Hart? You know, Tony Bellew's guy. Yeah. So I watched it, and I'd watched him anyway, and I thought, you know what, Mickey will beat him. I know how to beat him.
Even though he had a serious reputation, didn't he?
He was an Olympian. He was an Olympian. Yeah, and you know, he beat Lyndon Arthur the year that Mickey lost to Lyndon. Yeah. You know, and things like that. But it just shows, you know, with hard work, dedication, and just the will to win. And it don't matter about the losses. We all get losses in life. It don't mean you pack up, do you, after one loss, after one mistake in life. It's the same thing. Boxing's like life. So Mickey then fought Thomas Whitaker out, you know, and he was a bit like, do you think? And I'm like, yes, mate, you're flying. And I built his confidence up, because, you know, he was coming off a poor loss to Patrick. Patrick caught him with a lovely shot. He's been at a gym I love the team, really nice set of lads here. And he'd been over and stopped him in the first. So his confidence went up. He'd lost to Charlie, who he'd already beat. His confidence went up, but built it back up, and he's a different animal again. You know, and he's looking good. And now he's been avoided. You know, we accepted the Whitaker fight, and that we didn't want it. We wanted to move on. We wanted to move on, so we accepted it. You know, with no problems. I like Tony. I like Thomas. Seems like a really nice guy, and all the lads up at the Rotunda, they're all top kids, but. You know, we wanted to move on, and we couldn't, because it was like, you need this rematch. So we was like, we'll have the then that fell through. So we've been waiting about, and we're trying to get a fight, and we're struggling. You know, and he's got these blemishes on his record, but they have improved him. People obviously are aware of that.
Of course, and it's a bit different in it, Alex, than we're training with no fight day.
Oh, mate, it's tough. You know, but luckily, I mean, he goes to work. He's got 2 little boys who run riot, they're wild, you know, and they run riot around him, and he looks after them, he looks after the family. He's at work all day, and then he still comes to the gym, still drives. You know, he's moved further away now, and he still makes sure he's here, and he's not a problem. So we managed to get a fight in Florida, and you know, the kids fought for the world title, so he's at world level, but I believe Mickey can beat him.
Yeah. Do you know what I do as well? I've seen him move about with the likes of Mark Efron, Bonafide, British champion, and Mickey doesn't look out of place.
Not at all. Mickey's improved a lot, and he's a perfect example for these kids. Don't give up after a loss. Don't think you're not as good as that kid because you have to work all day and they don't. I know it gives them a little bit of an advantage, but still, if you put the effort in, just like Mickey has done, you can still get there. You know, Mickey never won the ABAs. He didn't beat Lyndon Arthur. He didn't beat Thomas Whitaker and that, but he's up there with them. You know, he's progressing and he's worked hard for it. And like anything, if you work hard, you get there.
That's it. The elite gym now, it's known notoriously as one of the best open door sparring places in the northwest.
Yeah.
Do you think
That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's crazy.
Do you think that? Do you think it deserves that reputation from being on the inside your own gym?
I think, you know, we've had everyone. Funnily enough, I always tell people this story. So, Hamza Shiraz was fighting Paul Keane. Was it Paul Keane from Scotland? So, Hamza Shiraz is coach. It might have been his dad. Someone rang us. It might have been Taz, his advisor. If you got sparring for Hamza come up and sparred. I don't think he was that spar, but he'd rang about it, or he might come up for that fight. And then Paul Keane and that are ringing us. They need a southpaw. We've got Carl Lamorty in the gym. We've got Marcus Tomlinson in the gym. They're ringing us because they need someone who's quite tall and up. You know, good jab. You know, nice, good straight shots. We've got Jack McGann in the gym. So we've got two people preparing for a fight from the bottom of the country, the top of the country, ringing us in the middle of the country to travel, both having to travel 3 or 4 hours to get here for the sparring. So we get calls like that every day. Tomorrow I've got Craig Winter who fought Joe Kalazegi. He's coming up with a couple of lads from Wales.
Simpson's been here a few times.
Callum Simpson's coming tomorrow again, yeah. Corey O'Regan's coming. Yesterday we had Reese Woods up, who's on the Steve Wood bill, who's on the box off. Yeah, he's fighting Jake Goodwin. We get so much sparring here, you know, and I am quite lucky. We've had everybody. We've had Terry Flanagan.
Yeah,
we've had
Charlie Edwards.
Charlie Edwards. You know, Jack Cullen. We've had everybody up at this gym sparring. Yeah.
Do you think them type, especially the likes of Charlie and the ex-world champions, do you think that that's ultimate experience for the likes of young Lee Gormley and stuff like that?
Yeah. You know,
around that weight.
Like I say, what I missed as a fighter was, as an amateur especially, was to see that pro on that bag who might be Charlie Edwards or whoever who's fought for a world title or won a world title and think, God, he's just human like me. Do you know what I mean? We had none of that in Bolton. Whereas now, if you go downstairs, you know, we've just had a few of the lads training who were pros or whatever, and you can see the level, the standard that, you know, it's not hard to get there as long as you put the effort in. Yeah. Obviously, you've got to be slightly gifted, but for them to come in, Lee Gormley, the sort of sparring he's got since he got some good sparring anyway as an amateur, but obviously we step it up, try and get him more professional sparring, the pace is slower and so on. So he's sparred some, you know, Liam Gaynor is another one. He's moved from Ireland to live here because of the training and the sparring. So he's given up his life in Ireland and dedicated himself so he can come here. The sparring's brilliant for him. You know, the first week he come here, I think he sparred. Who did he spar now? He sparred the Commonwealth champion from Manchester. He ended up, what was he called? He was with Bobby Rimmer, Robert Rimmer. Forgot his name, the featherweight. So anyway, you know, that was on his first session, I think, when he came here. And it's like that. Marcus Tomlinson's been in with Mark Efron and, you know, Patrick McCrory. Mickey Ellison's had some great sparring. Jack Kilgannon was here only the other day. Dan Catlin's here tomorrow.
They're fighting each other, the Kilgannon.
Yeah. So I've got Jack Kilgannon asking for sparring and Dan Catlin asking for. That's what I mean. So and this happens regularly. You know, I'll get one, and you know what happens in the gym stays in the gym.
Yeah, of course.
I never. Do you know what I mean? Even
we don't do them bullshit gym stories, do we?
Yeah. And you know. That's how it just is for me, because I treat people how I expect to be treated. But yeah, we get a ton of sparring from everywhere. You know, my phone doesn't stop, to be honest.
I bet it doesn't.
Yeah.
You are watching NicheSportz, a sports media outlet that's proudly sponsored by heshes.co.uk, a fast-growing boxing equipment brand that supply custom designs and bespoke equipment across the United Kingdom.
Body's moving to the beat. I love the way you're slowly getting close to me.